Is Jimi Hendrix coming out too?
Yes, I know. There's nowhere to go but down.
Thank you very much for being here, everybody, and thank you guys for coming to talk, have a conversation about Julie and Julia. So let's start with Nora, because it all started with Nora in terms of this movie. Tell us what happened. You opened the New York Times and read the Julie Powell piece and said, I see it all.
No, I didn't know about Julie Powell till I read about her in the New York Times. Amanda Hester did a very funny piece about her. And I read it and I thought, as I do about pretty much anything, what is this a movie? And I thought, no, it's not. And that was pretty much it for a few months. And then, I don't really remember the exact time thing, but a couple of months later, Amy Pascal, who runs Columbia Pictures, said to me, we're going to take the Julie Powell thing and put it together with a Julia Child story. And the minute she said that, I thought, oh my God, that's brilliant. That's great. Then the next thing she told me was that they already had a writer on it, which is really sick. But they wanted me to direct it. But I thought, I'll just hang in and maybe something will happen to this writer. And it did.
Oh, God.
She got a big television series. And she didn't have time to write it. And I said, well, we can't wait to find out what's going to happen with this. So I got to write it, and that's how my part of it began.
Meryl, did you always want to play Julia Child?
No, it wasn't a lifelong dream, but I always did want to be able to cook better than I do. And like most people, I thought I could do an imitation of her. But everybody has their bon appetit, But I never, imagined that there would be that she would be a film subject. She was so vividly in our frontal lobe from TV and just from how she transformed cooking in the country and everything.
Stanley, I know why somebody might want the challenge of playing such a well-known figure as Julia Child, but for you, this really is, she was madly in love with him, and their marriage was incredibly important and very much a part of who she was. But your role is much more of a quiet role in many ways. And so what drew you to this? What made you want to do this?
I needed a job. Well, Meryl had talked to me. We were at a party a few years ago, and we had done the Devil Wears Prada. She said, would you be interested in playing my husband in this movie? I'm going to play Julia Child. Nora's going to do it. Is that something? And of course, I said no. I said yes, of course I would. And we, a year later or so, you called me in. I was in New Zealand making a movie, and I had the script and read it and thought it was beautiful, and I just loved the idea of working with Meryl again and working with Nora for the first time. And I also loved the idea of bringing this story to life. I had read Julie Powell's book, which I thought was incredibly funny, and an amazing task, really, when you think about it. If you ever really looked at, mastering the art of French cooking, it's not something you really want to dive into. I mean, to make your life better. To me, if you want to make your life a true horror, that's what you would do. And you'll see in the movie, sometimes that happens. But I think for me, the beauty was Julia Child. Because as a kid, I'm food obsessed, and my whole family's food obsessed. And as a kid, I remember my mother watching Julia Child's show, And I remember being so moved by those shows. I think at the end of each show when she'd do her Bon Appetit, because she so loved what she did. And you saw it in every gesture and in every inflection. And I'll never forget it. I remember there was a very specific instance where I was almost moved to tears because there was such joy in her. And I think that you maybe unconsciously, later of course you realize that that's the way I'd like to live my life, whatever it is, whatever it is you choose to do. But that's what she did, and that's what she did for everybody. That's what was there. I think that's why we're all still fascinated by her.
Yeah. One of the things that I thought was so compelling about the character of Julia Child in this movie was that what most of us, I don't think, really understood about her until she sort of appeared full-blown on the television set was that she spent so much of the early to middle part of her life not really knowing what to do with herself.
I think that Julia Child didn't know necessarily that she was a creative person, that she was in essence an artist and a teacher because of the way she grew up. And once she was given the liberty to even think that maybe that's who she was, she was then able to execute it and choose whatever she wanted. And she was, she really was, I suppose, in a sense, allowed to do this or given this liberty by her husband, who had already, by the time they got married, had lived a very full life. And he was this sort of, Renaissance man. He was a painter, he was a photographer, he was a curator, he was a judo expert, he had been a teacher, he was a cultural liaison, he had been in the OSS. He was a really extraordinary guy. So I think maybe just by example, he showed that there were endless possibilities. But I think the key thing is to allow yourself to really imagine that you are a creative person. And once you do that, the reinvention can't help but keep happening, I think. I find it all the time. I just want to keep trying different things. I want to try, let me try to write a movie like this, or I'd like to do a play that maybe would be, you can't stop yourself in a way.
So, but you don't want to be a director, do you? You?
Me?
Yes, hello.
Well.
No. Only to the actors she's working with.
Oh, I was going to say most of the directors I've worked with feel I have directed. I'm a pain in the butt because I have so many opinions about everything.
You aren't, though.
But I do have a lot of opinions.
Well, but in a good way.
Well,
don't you think? I do.
Of course I think.
I do. I just thought it was great, but
But Nora is
you've
fantastic.
made more movies than any of us.
Oh.
Well, you have. You've made a huge number of movies, and you know a lot.
Well, I don't really know a lot because, as I said, I zone out into my thing, and I really don't pay attention to all the other departments, although I do pay attention to many that aren't any of my business. But but the great thing about working with Nora is that you are the door's open for all sorts of ideas, and we threw in a lot of little nonsense.
Yeah. In this film, give us an example of where maybe you did some improv and used it.
I wish we had the scene to show you, because there's a scene of the two of them. Julia is given the Larousse gastronomique for her birthday, for her 50th birthday, in fact, and it's what started her cooking. And she and Stanley are in bed, about to go to bed, about to make love, and she's reading aloud from the cookbook. We did this in rehearsal, and Meryl found a chicken recipe in it, and she said, and it was all arranged in the script that Julia Child couldn't really speak French, and that Paul Child was much better at it. And I'm going to ruin this line, but but she says, I don't know what this means.
Beignet les cuisses.
Beignet les, wash the thighs, Stanley said. And then Stanley said, and then stuff the hen until she just can't take it anymore. And you know, when that happens, when you are the writer, it would be very stupid to say, what have you done to my script? You know, I just wrote it down and put it into the final draft, you know. So.
We were amusing ourselves.
We
We had some fun.
But that's the beauty. You know when you walk away from a movie and you say, "Oh my God, that was so much fun." You
Yeah.
know that things like that were allowed to happen, and
Yeah.
that there is ultimately a trust that everyone has with each other.